Hi everybody. My name's Graham. I work for the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland. Let's see my slides. It's a pleasure to be here. What I'd like to do is talk you through how to evaluate mineral provinces by value creation potential, using the Gardar province in Greenland as the example, because it's been described as Europe's most considerable rare earth element resource. So I would like to show you a low-cost, quick, repeatable screening method for the mineral exploration sector to screen and prioritize mineralized provinces before spending the investors' money at the much smaller prospect scales. I'm going to focus on rare earth elements because the European Commission has designated them as critical raw materials. They're essential for Europe's technological and green transition, and yet they have a high supply risk. Before I do that, I'd like to give you a little bit of context. If we were planning an adventure trip to go and discover things before other people do, what we would do is have a screening method to work down through scales to predict where we can achieve our holiday ambitions within our budget. We'd identify the most favourable country, and then the most favourable province, and then district, and then maybe the top 5 campsites within it, using group wisdom from a range of different stakeholders. And this is an exploration approach to rank and prioritize a portfolio of opportunities. The petroleum exploration and some other commodities follow that same logic and have therefore a standardized, systematic workflow down from million to 10 square kilometer scale to screen and risk provinces, to identify where there could be a geologically related portfolio of prospects or a play. And you can see on the left-hand side some of the inputs for that. On the right-hand side, you can see that the product of this logic is predictive targeting, and the outputs are probability of success maps, which is how geoscientists, using colours, show their confidence in their model to forecast the location of undiscovered resources. And for the petroleum sector, there's about a 1 in 10 chance of success. And so these are geological tools to communicate big picture exploration uncertainties and risks to a range of stakeholders. Traditionally, critical metals exploration has followed a different method, where when there's been a commodity price boom, a company has been funded to go and test a known mineral occurrence or maybe a historic mine. And the geoscientists work up from the rock scale to maybe a couple of square kilometers. And if the project fails, a new company may pick up that license in the future, and then when the commodity price booms again, raise capital to spend on it. And the result of that, for the mineral sector, exploration sector overall, is only a 1 in 1,000 chance of success, with a low return on capital invested, no holistic picture for rare earth elements across national boundaries, and no active mines in Europe. And so I recommend that the critical metals sector would benefit from rating and prioritizing provinces before focusing down on the prospect scale. I'm going to summarize a systematic workflow of how to do this. So just to clarify, why screen mineralized provinces? Because that's the foundation scale for all future exploration expenditure. Companies have fundamental strategic questions like how commodity rich is a region, what's been discovered there, what business opportunities remain, do they justify further expenditure? Companies want to understand what's unfavorable or questionable early so that money is not spent in value eroding regions. Stakeholders need to align and be efficient to enhance decision quality. And so this is what I'm going to show you is best for before choosing a district or a property to lease. The workflow is designed for a range of different stakeholders to maximize the insight from public domain information. A lot of information is not required. It's about getting the current status of a large region, and there's no requirement for technical procedures, software, algorithms, artificial intelligence. So anybody can do this. So step 1 of this process will be to map the geographic extent of a mineralized province. That is all the mines, ore reserves, showings, deposits, etc., to create a base map, as you can see in the image, which is then used to reduce the targeting area towards exploration sweet spots. A lot of data that's collected to see, for example, magnetic anomalies, uranium anomalies, phenite rocks, that's not used at this stage. That's for subsequent play analysis, when an exploration company starts to think about how far the undiscovered mineral resource could extend. What we have done is we've created a way for all information to be collated into 3 criteria groups. That's the geological factors, so the subsurface rocks and the minerals, non-geological filters, so that's infrastructure, fiscal, political conditions, and then really importantly, the strength of information, because what we're trying to ultimately do is convey our confidence and our certainty in our models to our investors. And so the exploration company will populate tables, which have already been set out in a publication that's just coming out, to determine how favourable the province is that they're investigating, to give a multidimensional view of the province and identify information gaps before they start spending too much of the investors' money. The next step will be to determine the weakest link of a mineralized province, because it's the most negative criteria that will erode project value. That needs to be identified as a priority. And so what we enable users to do using the tables that we're publishing is to at least define whether, for many different criteria, a region looks encouraging down to unfavorable. And we use these risk colours, if you like, that we're familiar with from CO2 storage, storm forecasting, traffic lights, petroleum exploration. So a familiar method to us all. What this will do is enable the organisation to start comparing rare earth element provinces on a continental or even a global scale by being coloured by their weakest link, which, as you can see here, has been standard practice for CO2 storage in Australia. It's also standard practice across petroleum exploration as well. So again, you're using risk maps rather than rock maps to communicate to the stakeholders. The next stage is to determine how much exploration and production has occurred in a province to get an indicator, therefore, of how much remaining prospectivity or business opportunity there can be. And so what we've done is we've created a matrix based on lots of geoscience criteria and also strength of information to create 6 maturity categories. And they are that a province can be frontier, emerging, established, mature, barren or poorly endowed, and limited success. And obviously companies have their ways of creating, for example, discovery distribution size curves, etc. We also recommend that companies build creaming curves to determine again what's been found and therefore how much is left to find in a mineralized province. Let's have a look at Gardar rare earth element province then. As I've said before, it's been described in the literature as the most important area of rare earth element resources in Europe, and it holds a world-class rare earth element deposit. And our screening has showed that it's a moderate size frontier category province for rare earth elements. However, after decades of exploration and academic study and still no production, maybe it's a limited success province instead. And we've identified several criteria which are categorized as questionable in terms of value preservation. And those value eroding components need to be addressed as a priority. And so we recommend that industry, research and government policymakers work closely together to A, investigate the mineral system, B, integrate all geoscience information geospatially, not just in Excel or PDF format, and put that into the public domain. The government needs to help improve some of the community health and safety factors for a future mining workforce. Exploration companies need to convert some of those mineral resources up to ore reserves categories, and then hopefully commence mining and sales production, which hopefully will, as you can see from this stack of 3 orange layers, questionable for those 3 main categories, we can start making those more encouraging for investment. So when these weak links are strengthened, the region may therefore justify further exploration investment. And so if the Gardar rare earth element province is currently only questionable, what about Europe's other rare earth element provinces? To our knowledge, they haven't been studied in this way. We'd like to do that. And so if you're interested in collaborating, please let's talk further. So Take-home messages. We have created an objective, repeatable, low-cost method to screen any rare earth element province. It's a foundation for district-scale investigations or asset evaluations. It is systematic and it's standardized and it's usable for other commodities. It's been adapted from best practices of other commodities. A mineralized province needs to be understood in terms of how favorable it is for potential value creation, not just the prospect scale. We want to identify information gaps, the weakest links, how much exploration production history has occurred over a region, how that compares with other rare earth element provinces, and therefore what further investigations are justified. Our workflow will show that. We've showed how to incorporate geoscience, strategy, economic and socio-environmental factors on a screening scale, which is directly usable across those different stakeholder groups. And therefore we've created a platform for organizations to screen rare earth element provinces consistently across nations and organizations. So if you'd like to discuss this more, I'd welcome that. And our publication is currently been accepted and will be available in the public domain soon. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to more conversations.